and some rains are much worse than others, but you can see with 50,000 registrants it was impactful, and so I'm honored to be here, and through our partnership I think we are doing good things. We're over 85 million in approved monies for families and individuals.
Well, I know we're getting the high sign that we've eaten up the time, so let's give out the FEMA number one more time and the website.
Please register 1-800-621-FEMA or www.disasterassistance.gov, or visit one of our DRCs. But again, in the disaster recovery centers, you'll be referred to the 800 line of the website. Do that in the comfort of your own.
It doesn't take that long, honestly.
20 minutes.
Thank you.
Dinner makes a difference. Learn more at CasaFamilyDay.org.
Welcome back to Westchester's World. My name is Sam Pulia, Village President, Village of Westchester. We're back with our guest, David Ramos, Cook County Emergency Management, Homeland Security, and Greg Eaton from our partners in FEMA. So welcome back to the second segment of our show. I know we had some conversation on the break. I'd like to get back into the local assessments of what FEMA has been doing specifically in this region, and we know that Westchester has been a disaster recovery site for probably about a week now, be a week tomorrow. So,
and we've had great turnout at the Disaster Recovery Center, and that's really the core of where we're helping people. But as we talked about as we ended the last segment, the key is to register. You have to register to start the process, and the process is actually very quick. From the time you register, whether it's online or the 800 line, the inspector will call to schedule an appointment with you. And it's very important that you understand that the inspector is going to call. They're never going to show up, and nobody's going to knock on your door and say, I'm from FEMA, for that part of it. They're going to call, schedule an appointment, they'll show up, and they'll also have an ID card. That's all critical things. The last thing and part of that, they're never going to ask any personal information. They're never going to ask your social security number, any of your bank account information. They already have that information. If you're uncomfortable with the inspector, you can tell the inspector that you'll reschedule the appointment, and the inspector will leave, and then we can start the rescheduling process. But from the inspection, they're going to look around the whole house, because again, they understand all the programs and everything we have, which you may not realize that you may be eligible for other parts of your home as well. And so you want to let the inspector look at the whole house, and then from that point, that should happen. The inspection scheduling, and from the inspection complete, we're averaging about 3 days, 4 hours right now. So it's fairly quick. If you sign up for electronic funds transfer via the website or the 800 line when you start the process, you really have the money in about 7 days for eligible damages within the home. So it's a quick process. We think it's an efficient process. But again, we want to caution people about the fraud aspect to protect themselves. And the other thing too, as we discussed, if you're confused about a letter or communication you have with FEMA, make sure you stay in touch with us. The Disaster Recovery Center in Westchester, for the people of Westchester and the surrounding communities, is a great place to get answers one-on-one with somebody about any communication you would have with us. If you think, and it will happen, that perhaps we missed something, again, the Disaster Recovery Center, or you can call back to the 800 line, and we can help you through that process. There's always an appeal process, and we want to make sure that everybody gets what they're supposed to get as far as reimbursement for eligible damages.
So I know early on we filled out the data application just to get numbers. The declaration was made by President Obama, and we certainly thank him. We thank the governor. The governor was in Westchester, and a host of mayors from not only Cook County but DuPage County were invited and attended that meeting, where the governor did indicate that he was going to make the disaster declaration to the president. That was the 16th of August. By the 19th, I think it's probably the fastest declaration, and you would know better.
It's very quick.
That the President Obama hopefully was prepped with me going to Washington, and certainly all the congressmen had been getting calls to push this system along. So that's all done. People have to either call or get on the website to register. I'm very surprised, as the calls I got originally, that FEMA reps are calling, scheduling appointments, and to be honest with you, kind of like we talked on a break, that we've never seen government move so fast, and that's a positive thing in my eyes, that they were there making phone calls to schedule appointments and that they're not going to ask for any specific information, that they already have it because you've already supplied it. But the homeowners should be having all their pictures and things that were damages and itemized to the best of their ability of the things that were damaged. One person told me, an insurance person, said basically, Sam, if you took your house and flipped it upside down and shook it, generally the personal property contents are not covered by this type of declaration. And I know your office made it pretty clear in every event that I attended that you're not going to be made whole, but you're basically going to potentially receive, if you don't have private insurance covering these things, that you're going to be getting some structural damage replacement money in that. And
we are, the way to think about the FEMA Individual Assistance Program is safe, sanitary, and functional, which is very key, safe, sanitary, and functional. So as we look at this event, if your basement was flooded, the things that generally are going to be eligible are going to be the furnace, your water heater, if there was any hydrostatic pressure on the walls that forced them to collapse, structural damage along those lines, that is going to be eligible. Beyond that, there's some other areas that may be eligible throughout the house in the basement, but it really depends on your individual case. So again, the inspector is going to look through that, and that's why they're going to look at that. In some cases, essential living areas in the basement would be eligible, and that's really on a case-by-case basis. But safe, sanitary, and functional is really the crux of what we do. And Chicagoland is a little bit different because obviously it's the third largest city in the country. Parts of Chicago are extremely wealthy. You go out to other parts of the country, and it's not such the case. Where you have people living in mobile homes and things like that, where what we'll do is a replacement, and you can, through the max grant of $29,900, you can really make a difference in getting them started someplace else. Here in Chicagoland, and certainly in Westchester, it's safe, sanitary, and functional, and getting your house restored to that capacity.
Yeah. But also, too, if I might add, is that that's the reason why it's very important for the local municipalities to work very closely with their residents, because those preliminary damage assessment forms that were originally filled out was to provide Cook County, our Office of Homeland Security Emergency Management, with that information so that we can go ahead and determine what areas were affected and is it enough for us to declare Cook County a disaster area. Because again, it starts locally. And for example, not just with Westchester, but there was 24 other towns in Cook County that declared themselves a disaster area. So with the 25 towns together, all that information, we worked very closely with the emergency managers in that area, and we were able to collect all that data information. I spoke to the president and I said, Mr. President, we need to declare Cook County a disaster area immediately. He did so on July 27th, right after the storms. We provided that data information to the Illinois Emergency Management Agency, IEMA, and of course it goes to the governor's office and it goes off to Washington, D.C. But again, it's very critical that we get a good handle on this early on, because that's how we were able to get the federal declaration. It's because we all work together in this. And it's important, and not just the 25 communities that declared a disaster, but there are other parts of areas in Cook County where residents receive flooding and they are still eligible to apply for federal assistance. And that's why it's important for them to either call the 1-800 number, go online, or go to the disaster recovery centers. And we also have one in the town of Cicero as well. So we make it very comfortable enough for residents either to pick up the phone, go online, or go visit, and if you feel comfortable speaking with a live person.
When the forms are coming in, I know we have some kind of basic counts. How many affected people? I know in Westchester, there's probably 3,500 to 4,000 preliminary forms that we receive, although there may be some duplicates in there as well. but you know, our numbers were very high for a location that has 7,000
And it
homes.
was. You were one of the towns that were the hardest areas that were hit. Cicero, for example, had approximately 10,000 residents that were affected. Other areas, Bellwood, Broadview, Berkeley, Hillside, Melrose Park, all those areas in the western suburb. That storm came in from DuPage County and it just kept on going right across the west suburban area into the lake. But remember that all of Cook County actually received a lot of rain, but the flooding itself was so significant in central Cook County.
And as you go through that process, and I think Cook County was extremely organized through that process, because there's a local assessment as far as the county level, and then there's a joint state-federal assessment that continues. And as FEMA, we come in with you know, with the state, IEMA, and work with the county and the local villages and towns, and you're taking us right to where we need to go to assess damage. And there's really 4 categories. It's destroyed, major, minor, and affected. And all those have a big impact as far as the declaration process. And as it gets through again, FEMA and DHS to the White House, to looking at those 4 categories and the other impacts too to the community are extremely important. And I think we were frankly very fortunate that for this declaration, there was no other declarations in the queue going through our declarations process. So it really did speed things along, which was very fortunate.
Yeah,
because with the individual assistance, the key is to be there quickly. Yeah. You don't want to be there 3 weeks or a month later.
And you have to give kudos to Red Cross and Salvation Army. Red Cross came out to Westchester and they fed us when we had the EOC open up in your area, and they also helped shelter many residents in Cook County that were displaced from their homes.
Yeah, Salvation Army came out, and my wife got involved in the process certainly and made some calls, and we ended up with 3,500 buckets with mops and cleanup supplies. And you know, we were kind of a resource for a number of communities. If you see our sheets that we made people fill out, you see the Bellwoods, the Hillsides.
Oh, yes.
And you know, we didn't turn anybody away. When they were gone, they were gone. And I was hopeful that other communities certainly got some as well to help their residents. But
in a disaster, we all come together.
Absolutely.
I have to tell you. We have a couple minutes left, and you had some numbers that about the monies that have been used and how much stuff that you were talking about earlier.
Right now we're at 85 million as far as the individual individual housing program. That's all the housing assistance, that's other needs assessment, all those type things. It's again, we're 85 million. We're over 50,000 registrants. The other partner that we haven't talked about here, just to touch on very briefly, is the SBA. Small Business Administration. It's a very important part of the process. It's a loan, a little bit different. There's frankly, you can for your real estate, it's a $200,000 limit as far as on your real estate. Personal property is $40,000. So it's a larger loan based on damages through the disaster recovery centers. When you register, you'll get an application. Don't discard that. As you get that, take a look at that and assess your other needs. As you work through that, you can fill out that application, return it, and then and if it's not eligible, then you may be eligible for other assistance with FEMA.
So the things are, we make the phone call, have the assessment. If you're rejected, appeal for that process, and certainly follow through with the SBA as well.
And out of 50,000 registrants, how many of them are from Cook County?
47,000.
47,000.
Bulk of it's Cook County.
So, all right, gentlemen, I'm getting the circle that we're out of time, so I do want to thank you guys for coming. I'm sure we'll be partnering up as we go through this process. So thank you once again.
Thank you
for having us.